So we're going to go through these 6 horses, 2 at a time, and then after that, 2 of them are going to be ridden. But I'm going to turn it over to Anna and Jen first to tell us about the horses.
Okay. Well, the first horse we have here with Amy, her white hat, is Dave and Dixie. And he's a 7-year-old gelding who his claim to fame is that he actually ran in the Belmont Stakes in 2010. His last race was in 2011 at Hollywood Park. He Vocations 10 in 2012, was given plenty of time off. They put him back into training, and it came back up again. That's why he was donated to us, and he's been a really great student for us. He's been here for about 3-4 months. He's started on the flat and some little X's, and we will see him later today.
All right, for this guy's pedigree, he is by Dixie Union. For those of you guys who know who Dixie Union was, he was a really good sire here in Kentucky. Thank you. Dixie Union was the kind of horse that had a lot of substance to him. He had a really nice shoulder, really nice hip, and a lot of his offspring have gone on to do really well in the hunter ring. They tend to be really nice movers with a nice shoulder to them, just like this guy has, and those big wide set eyes and a nice look to them. He's also out of a wavering monarch mare, and those are really known for their good temper. So if he is anything like his parents, this guy should have a really good mind to him.
Let me real quick. We didn't introduce the superstars here. We figured they didn't really need to be introduced. So first of all, Jen Roytz, who you just heard from, is she's sort of the local Kentucky guru for knowing, the horses, their bloodlines, what's retiring. She, until very recently, was the marketing director for Three Chimneys Farm, and now she's sort of freelancing a bit and helping out a lot of the organizations like us and New Vocations. Boyd Martin is Boyd Martin. You can read the program to find out about him. And he actually, it's amazing to me that he's here, because I called him and asked him if he would do this, and he really had trouble saying no, because he was going to be riding 4 horses, and he just decided he had to say no, even though he wanted to do it. And then he called back after he broke his leg, and he offered. He was still thinking he might ride 1 or 2, but that would give him enough time to do this. So, and none of these guys are getting paid, by the way. They don't know that yet, but they're not getting paid. They're volunteering their time just because they love the Thoroughbreds. And then Linda Zang is practically my next door neighbor. She lives about 2 miles down the road. I went to Pony Club camp at her farm. And she is not only rode in the Ultimate Olympics in 1980 and was a great competitor, but is an O dressage judge, and just got back from Italy, where all the big-time dressage judges in the world get together and make sure that they all agree on everything. And she's a very popular clinician and judge. So she's more representing the dressage side. So now I will let them, I guess we're asking them to comment just on the first horse? Okay, you're only allowed to talk about the first horse, Boyd. And you can say anything else you want to.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. We've got this first horse, which I've got to say, guys, as soon as he walked in here, I liked. One of the things I've found picking horses is you've got to have this sort of instant sort of love. A bit like a girlfriend or a husband. You've got to be able to see them, and it's got to be love at first sight. And to me, this guy's athletic. He's got a nice sort of long neck, which I think from a thoroughbred point of view is great for dressage. A short-necked horse, a short-necked thoroughbred is often a struggle for the dressage. If we have a look at his walk, he doesn't have a massive overstep, but you can see his hind feet are actually over-tracking his front feet, which usually means that he's got a genuine natural walk, and it usually means that he's fast. I heard that he's bowed twice. For me as an event rider, I wouldn't worry too much about a bowed tendon as a racehorse. Because he's bowed twice, if I was looking at this horse to buy, I'd definitely get my vet just to put a scan on it to make sure that it's healed up. In my experience, as though I've had a few horses in the past that have had bows as racehorses, and as long as they heal up, they never seem to haunt them, just because the first year or two as a potential event horse is very much less trauma to their lower legs as he would have experienced as a racehorse. And I kind of like his disposition. He's got his ears pricked. He looks happy to be here. I think he's uphill enough, and just watching him trot there, I think he's could develop into a good mover. And he looks like a happy horse. So I'm going to pass it over to Linda, and she will give probably a more detailed version from a judge's point of view.
Thank you, Boyd. This is a very interesting horse. I too, when he came out, liked him a lot. Can you please walk for a second? If you keep trotting, I'm worried. I couldn't trot that long. What I like about this horse is the way he moves his entire top line when he walks. He walks, he has a bit of authority, he has a purpose in his walk, and he's using his head, neck, and you can see that working all the way through to his tail. In the development of a horse for dressage and for flat work, dressage is training for horses for all different disciplines. And the important thing is that you can see that he is got a regularity and he's got a good rhythm, and that you see his whole body move as he walks. And in doing so, you can develop him so he engages his hind leg more, and of course brings his front end up more and gives him more freedom in the shoulders. A lot of times when you're talking about thoroughbreds, people say, well, they don't trot enough to be a top dressage horse, but this is very wrong. It's the development of the horse and the training of the horse that encourages the horse to develop so he will get freer. When a horse is being raced, the point of balance of a horse is at the tip end of his tail, of his nose, because of the power onto the forehand. In a dressage horse, the balance is on the tip end of his tail. So when working with dressage at any horse, our whole objective is to keep him regularly relaxed, but encourage him to step more under with his hind legs, using his hips in the trot, using his back in the canter, which will in turn biomechanically lift his whole body up and get him to open up his vertebrae, which are pointed backwards to the rider. And as he moves, the vertebrae open and they become working over the back. And with that, the whole front of the horse raises up, and the muscle development comes up, and then you start to see the muscles develop. And when he learns to pick his front legs up, he'll start to swing more with suppling exercises. So this particular horse, I like the walk. Yes, he shows an overstep, just like Boyd says. This can improve. If horse has a good walk, horse has a good canter. It sort of goes hand in hand. So for me, the bow doesn't bother me. Again, if you develop them right, take care of them, it won't make any difference. You just have to stay aware, always feel the horse, make sure, like you should, if any horse, every day you go to work with them, to train them to feel and understand how they're developing with you. So I really do like this particular horse.
We're ready for the next one. The next horse, his name is Rain King. All these horses are in your program too, if you want to look them up. He's a 7-year-old. He was a $90,000 yearling. And by the way, David Dixie was a $310,000 2-year-old. I forgot that. But this guy here, Rain King, he last raced November 8th of last year at Aqueduct in a $25,000 claiming race. The people that donated him to New Vocations really don't do much claiming or running and claiming races. And so he was not competitive at that level. They called us right away. He came over to New Vocations in January and has been doing about the same as David Dixie, just some flat work, and we've popped him over a couple of fences. Injury-wise, his legs are very clean. He hasn't had any soft tissue or any major joint issues, but he did fracture, we were told probably about 2.5 years ago, he fractured his coffin bone, and he was rehabbed, returned to run about 10 races after that.
All right. From a pedigree standpoint, this guy has actually got a super cool pedigree and has some East up in his bloodlines. He is by a stallion named Roman Ruler, who is a really pretty gutsy horse as a racehorse. His dad, Roman Ruler's dad, was Vocations Pegasus, who won the Kentucky Derby. And his mom is, Postulant by Pulpit. And Pulpit was known as a really big, fire-breathing dragon kind of horse as well. The thing that strikes me that is so funny about this horse is that based on his dam sire, his grandfather, and his dad, you would think that he would be a fire-breathing dragon just like his ancestors are, and he seems like a totally cool dude. So I guess he is a good example of the fact that this doesn't always translate into progeny, just like Pulpit was also a really big, thick horse, as was Vocations Pegasus, and he seems to kind of be well within himself, not super refined and feminine, but a nicely built horse. He also has something cool in his ancestry under his mom. His half-brother was Beggin' My Neighbor, who was not only a stakes winner, but as a sale horse, he was the co-highest price offspring of a young stallion in Kentucky named Half Hours. That stallion had a lot of money behind him, a lot of people buying his offspring, so his half-brother was a nice, pricey horse. So that family is definitely athletic.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a good-looking horse as well. I probably don't love him as much as our first guy. The first guy is a bit of a supermodel. However, my eyes are sort of thinking four-star horse. I look at this guy and he potentially could be a four-star horse, but when I glance at him, I'm thinking he'd probably be a lot more suitable for some of the people watching here tonight. You know, maybe he's a top-class amateur's horse. To me, I like the real starry, rangy types. He's a little bit shorter in his walk. The thing I do like about him, he looks really, really quiet and friendly and easygoing, which I think is very, very important when picking out your thoroughbred. Definitely one of the flaws in a thoroughbred is one that's a bit of a whack job. You've got to try and stay away from the wackos because they often don't quieten down, and this dude looks pretty chilled. If I had to fault his conformation, if you look at his right front foot, it's a little bit more up and down than his left front foot. However, that would never stop me buying a horse. Remember, one of the great racehorse trainers in Australia is a guy called Bart Cummings. And Bart Cummings would always buy a horse with a crooked leg or a turned-in foot if he loved everything about it. So it would be something to note. It's a negative, but it not necessarily would make you dig the horse. But I think the best thing that I can see straight away is this horse's temperament and his character.
All right. For me, I find this interesting. I have to ask you, Boyd, I'm going to pull you right back into this. When you look at this horse, have you heard the word jumper's bump?
Yes.
Does he have a jumper's bump?
Yeah, he's got a strong-looking hind end. If you look at his sacroiliac or at the top of his haunches, it looks like the sort of rear end that could pounce down and jump like a bunny rabbit.
Because when I was growing up, they would say this is a jumper's bump. Now, he's very interesting because he's a little bit more of a compact horse than the first horse. The first horse is longer angles. And we always say, in the old days, in my day, that you should always take the horse's head and be able to fit the head in the neck, in the shoulder, in the back, and on his hip, from his hip down, back. I don't know if you ever heard it, but they call it the head measurements. Now this horse has pretty good head measurements, and he's very attractive, and he can develop a lot different neck and top line. But right now, as we see him, as the bare horse just coming off, he is a little long, or say, he looks a little weak in his back where he goes into the jumper's bump, a little length there. But in dressage, we feel that you can fix this and make this much better by just taking time to ride him low and long and encourage him again to, like I said about the first horse, that the horse does a little bit more freely of using his top line so his whole structure biomechanically gets stronger and starts to lift the horse up and move him. His one front foot is not perfect, but the worst thing one person could do if they got this particular horse would be try to change it. You just have to have a good blacksmith, and you have to have someone who will take the time to help this horse stay balanced within the way he's made. So again, if our young man could just walk him a little faster, that would make me feel really happy. If you could let him just sort of roll along, rolling down the river, that's it. See, so when he walks, that's what I thought. There's more horse in there. Because now he's overstepping, he's starting to use his hips. And we look very closely when you look for dressage horses or horses developing, that it shows the ability to bend his hind legs, his hocks, so they can come under his body, therefore that the horse can then shift his whole body back over his hind leg and come more up and free. But I think this horse can be made a lot more attractive with muscle development, and I think he could be well used for dressage in the lower levels. It would be harder for him, in the truth of it all, for him to do the higher levels if he doesn't carry the strength over his hind leg.
Great, we're going to dismiss these two, and these are the two that are going to come back under saddle. We're going to get your all's opinion of them on the flat, and Boyd's going to get them going over small fences. No clapping.
Remember, guys, when you're picking out your thoroughbreds as well, try and get a little bit of research done on the train. A trainer that has raced his horse and raced his horse and raced his horse, and then the horse went lame, and he loaded him up full of hemp, and raced him and raced him and raced him, and then that would be a little bit of a sign that the horse that you're getting might be a little bit worn out. And there's in America and all over the world, there's trainers that really look after their horses and do right by their horses, and then there's some that really thrash them. And for us as potential event riders, I would try and stay away from these horses that have had a really, really hard time and been over-raced, especially once they've gone through injury. And these are all little things that you've got to weigh up. And then also, when you go to look at your horses, your ex-racehorse, remember all these trainers, once they don't want to race, they're very negotiable. So you've got to be very, very smart when you look at the horse. Don't seem too enthused. And how's that? And always wear old clothing so they don't think you're too wealthy. And often all these little things can get you a really cracking deal.
Okay, our next horse here with Amy is Joni's kitten. And this is pretty amazing. So she raced at Keeneland last weekend and only arrived here on Tuesday. So we're asking her to do a lot tonight, but we're just going to leave here. She's just doing the leading portion. She is a kitten's joy, and I believe that I just saw the Ramseys have arrived. So she was bred actually by the Ramseys, and she was a $20,000 yearling. She ran only 2 starts this year, and I know her trainer very, very well. They've had her since she was 2. She wasn't ready at 2, so they only ran her this year 2 times at 3. She showed no ability, and it didn't take them long to decide that they were just going to retire her versus dropping her to a low class. So we're super excited to have her here today.
As Anna said, this girl is by Kitten's Joy. Kitten's Joy was an awesome show horse and an awesome gelding. I actually rode him when I was in college. Really cool horse to ride. I'm guessing that his offspring are really cool to ride as well. He liked the more distance that he got, and usually his offspring are the same way. So I've seen a lot of them go on to do really well in 3-day eventing and really love the cross-country phase. Her dam sire is Devil His Due. That was a horse that was known for his soundness. Devil His Due raced without medication for his career, and he was a really, really sound horse. So from a pedigree standpoint, this girl's young, she didn't do much on the track, she should hold up really well.
I'll go first with this group. Now, with her, number one, she is so attractive. I mean, how could you have better markings than the 2 white hind feet for us in dressage? And the face is just great. I think, I also like with her strength in her loin. I think she's very strong and then she's very typey. And she must have a good mind to be out here doing this, so she would probably be very easy to work with. When she moves right now, this is another thing that I've learned over the years. Just coming out off the racetrack, we say sometimes the horse looks tied in the elbows. I don't know if you've heard that. But it doesn't mean a bad thing, but they're just so tight and they need to be turned out and relaxed and let them start to open up and swing in a lot of times. So if she went to jog her, in my opinion, she'd probably be very tight and very forced up, prancing a little bit with her feet, because she just steps out and drops her feet and doesn't move through her elbows. I'm sure you all can see that. But this too can be changed again through suppling exercises to open the shoulders up and to make them cross. So just to go really quickly through just another little biomechanic thing, that you don't have to trot anymore, that's great. As when we start, we encourage the horse to supple, and suppling means they follow the rein while they move away from the legs, so they start to use their body back and forth. And as you do that, push him off one side, it makes the horse step out with the other front leg, and we call that opening up the chest and making him loosen up and start to swing and develop themselves instead of just going straight, straight, straight. At the same time, it brings the hind leg under, so that strengthens the ability to come up and under and open under, and in doing that, it loosens the horse up. And then as we go further into the training, we work on making sure the horse stays balanced on all 4 feet and all 3 gaits. So this mare will improve a lot with that type of work and just some time to rest. So I think she's very typey, and I think she would be good for our sport in the lower level.
Couldn't agree more, Linda. It's a very, very attractive horse. I'm a sucker for a horse with a bit of white on their face or white on their legs. I just think it makes them attractive. Bit of chrome on them. I agree with Linda. I think it's a better move than what we're seeing here. It still looks like it's in the paddock at the racetrack, sort of shuffling around a bit, but I think in time she would be loose. If I had a wish list, I would wish that she had a little bit longer neck. I think she's a wee bit short in the neck for the dressage, but I'd still buy her. We notice on her right front she's got a few white marks near her split bone. I'd say she's been pin fired or something like that, and if it's just to do with or shin soreness or something like that, that wouldn't put me off at all. I think that's a remedy on the racetrack which gets them going again, and I'd get my vet to check it out, but it wouldn't bother me. But I like this horse a lot.
I believe they probably froze a splint as a 2-year-old, would be my guess. The next horse is named Pulpit Spirit. He's a 3-year-old. He was a $50,000 2-year-old, and he last ran March 22nd, so about a month ago at Gulfstream Park. And he was donated April 7th. He arrived here with no apparent injuries.
Okay, so this guy is by Pulpit, who from the standpoint of taking a horse off the racetrack and making it into a second career horse, a lot of the pulpits that I've seen, and a lot of pulpits offspring through the grandfather stage, have awesome knees over fences. A lot of pulpits' sons went on to Sky Mesa, Tapit, he's got a ton out there. And uniformly, I've seen a lot of horses with these bloodlines have really nice form over fences. So that's always a plus if I see pulpit in a horse's pedigree. To me, this guy is the epitome of thoroughbred breeders putting a lot of thought into the breeding they do. He has a very balanced bloodline. He's, like I said, by pulpit, he's out of a lemon drop kit mare. That's basically pairing up, distance with sprinting, a hot temper with an even temper. So from that standpoint, he's very balanced. Pulpit, I think when he died, was something like a $60,000 stud fee. So when you think of it from the breeder's perspective, the people who are spending these hundreds of thousands of dollars on mares and tens of thousands of dollars on stud fees, they're putting a ton of thinking into breeding an athlete. There's no better athlete than the thoroughbred, and this guy is a great example to me of someone who put a lot of thought into who they wanted to breed their mare to and what they were going to get out of it.
Thank you, Boyd. This horse is very interesting to me. If my husband was with me today, he would like this. My husband was in racing, he was president of the Maryland Horse Breeders Association, helped start the Maryland Million, and has raced a lot of horses in Maryland himself as a trainer. But what he would like about this horse is the way he carries his head. He always believed a horse who was relaxed, who could carry his head like this was a good sign, especially for a horse who would be calm, hopefully more of a calm attitude going, so they wouldn't wear themselves out when they went to the track or to the gate, etc. For me, we always had a little bit of discussion about this, because for me, I would like to have a little higher set neck into the shoulder. And because I would like to have a little bit of an extra raising for the higher level Grand Prix level dressage horses. But at the same time, going back to what I said, if the two of us would go out and look at horses together, he'd like this head carriage, I would like a little more head carriage, and if they turned out great anyway. So again, it's the development. He needs strength. He needs to, it's very important. The muscles, there's one big muscle on each side of the backbone that runs all the way up to his ear, and you have to develop that so that gets stronger and hence lifts him more up in his frame. And in doing so, so when you're training him, you'll see muscle develop down the side of his neck, but also a muscle once they start to move their shoulders that's right in front of the wither on the top. So that's where we work this horse to develop that muscle so that he would swing more, but he's a lovely type. I would think he would be great for the hunters, myself. Boyd?
Thanks, Linda. Yeah, for me, personally, if I was picking a horse for myself, this guy doesn't turn me on that much. He sort of, to me, is a little bit pony-like. He's a little bit short neck, a little bit low neck, and sort of like I love a rangy horse, a horse that sort of comes in here and marches like a man and has presence, and I don't think this guy quite has that. However, a lot of you guys here are probably looking for a different style of horse to me. So what you've got to do is always look at your horse and think, what do I need? Number one thing you need I think, is temperament. And this guy looks like he's got a wonderful temperament.
I think, unfortunately, that thoroughbreds have gotten a little shortcutted in the United States in the competition world. And I firmly believe that we have a gold mine here in the United States. And I'm sure Boyd would absolutely agree with me. We make the most beautiful, athletic, bold, courageous horses, such as a thoroughbred. And right now there's such a push through advertisement and everything else to get the warm bloods from Europe and putting them into all of our sports. But I believe that the thoroughbred can do just as well and maybe better. And it's sort of happening behind closed doors, because in the last 10 years, the breeding associations in Europe now want to make sure that they're putting thoroughbred breeding back into their horses to give them more length in the leg and to make them a prettier type. Back when they were just making them, using the warm bloods during the war, they were used a lot for pulling wagons and guns and cannons and all those things, and they are big, strong horses with big, powerful shoulders. And now they want to bring our American thoroughbred bloodlines, and they've taken over some top stallions, and you're seeing these stallions show up now on the horses that are very, very good and very athletic. And don't you agree, Boyd?
Couldn't agree more, Linda. To me, when you're looking for a thoroughbred, try and, like your classic 2-year-old sprinter, to me, in America, is a little bit short and downhill and hot and wiry. And to me, when you're thinking of a type for a thoroughbred, I think you have more luck with a longer distance horse. They seem to be rangier, longer and built for distance, and that seems to suit eventing a little bit more. And that's why I think the English, sometimes they've got those national hunt horses, 3-mile horses, and that's sort of the type I think we're looking for, and they are in America, and that's the thing that, and to me, like a quiet, trainable, careful thoroughbred is better than any other breed in the world for eventing. And if you can find that, and they're out there in this country, if you can find that, I wouldn't want to ride anything else. So keep that in the back of your mind. There is a sorting out process. Not every thoroughbred's going to be ideal, but definitely I think I've ridden 9 or 10 thoroughbreds to the 4-star level, and they're brilliant because they try and they don't give up, and they're athletes.